The night my straight roommate turned gay after one summer night with me started with nothing more than cheap beer and honest talk on a sticky Chicago rooftop. Chris had always been the guy everyone envied. Tall, broad-shouldered from years of soccer, with an easy laugh and a string of girlfriends who never lasted because he said he was focused on his engineering degree. We had shared the cramped two-bedroom apartment near the university for almost 2 years, splitting rent and never crossing any lines. I was openly gay but kept my dating life quiet to avoid awkwardness. That humid July evening the air conditioner broke, so we carried a six-pack upstairs. The city lights stretched out below us as we talked about everything and nothing. Chris opened up about the pressure from his parents back in rural Indiana. Church every Sunday, expectations to marry a nice girl and give them grandkids. I shared how coming out had cost me some family closeness but brought me peace. Then, in a quiet moment, the conversation slowed. Chris looked at me longer than usual. Before I could process it, he leaned in and kissed me. It was not rough or sloppy from the alcohol. It was soft and searching, like something he had been fighting for months. When we pulled apart, his eyes were wide with shock. What the hell was that, he whispered. I sat frozen, my heart hammering. We did not speak for a long time. The next morning the apartment felt smaller. Chris moved around the kitchen, avoiding my eyes while he made coffee. About last night, he started, his voice cracking. I do not know what came over me. I am not gay. I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. It is okay, man. Heat of the moment. We can pretend it never happened. But as the days passed, Chris could not pretend. He would catch himself staring at me across the living room. He stopped bringing girls home. One evening while we ate takeout, he asked suddenly, "How did you know you were gay?" The question hung there heavy. I answered honestly, but inside I felt a mix of hope and fear. What if that kiss had cracked open something in him that society and his family would never accept? Summer dragged on, with the tension building slowly. Chris grew restless. He paced the apartment at night. He snapped at small things, then apologized right away. I heard him on the phone with his mom one afternoon. "Yeah, everything is fine here," he said, but his tone was strained. His parents planned a weekend visit in a few weeks. They were the kind of conservative family where any hint of difference meant lectures about sin and disappointment. Chris was their golden boy, the one who would carry on the family name. I watched him grow more anxious each day. One night, after a long shift, he came home and collapsed on the couch. "I think I am confused," he admitted quietly. "Everything I thought I knew about myself feels wrong now." I wanted to reach out, but I held back. The last thing I wanted was to push him into something he would regret. That summer night had started a chain reaction, and the fallout was just beginning to show. Chris tried to go back to normal, but the cracks were everywhere. He threw himself into work and gym sessions, coming home exhausted. Yet, in the quiet moments, he sought me out. We talked for hours about identity and fear. He asked if feelings like this could appear suddenly. I told him sexuality was not always a straight line for everyone. He listened, but the guilt ate at him. His faith background made every new thought feel like a betrayal. I felt the weight too. Had I somehow caused this by being open, or was this always inside him waiting for the right moment? The apartment that once felt like a safe space now held unspoken questions, and the fear of what would happen when his family arrived. The days counted down and the pressure mounted. Chris started avoiding the rooftop altogether, as if the place where it happened carried too much power. I wondered how long he could keep denying what that one night had awakened in him. As the visit approached, Chris cleaned the apartment obsessively. He asked me to act like nothing had changed. I agreed, but the request stung. I was not just his roommate anymore. I was the reason his world was tilting. One evening he sat across from me at the kitchen table. "If they find out, they will never speak to me again," he said, his voice breaking. "I do not want to lose my family, Ethan." I nodded, understanding the impossible choice he faced. The price of honesty could be everything he had built. Yet the way he looked at me when he thought I was not paying attention told me the feelings were not going away. That summer night had not just changed Chris. It had changed us both, and the real test was still to come. Chris decided the best way to prove the kiss meant nothing was to dive back into dating. He met Emily through a study group. She was smart, with a warm smile, and came from a similar Midwest background. He brought her to the apartment a few times, making sure I saw how normal it all looked. They laughed on the couch and he held her hand a little too tightly as if convincing himself. "See, this is who I am," his eyes seemed to say every time she visited. But after she left, the mask dropped. He would sit with me in silence, then suddenly ask questions. Why does it feel different with her? Why do I keep thinking about that night? The internal battle was tearing him apart. On one side was the life his parents had mapped out. On the other was this new pull toward me that he could not explain or escape. The societal weight pressed down harder. At his internship, colleagues made casual jokes about gay people. Chris used to laugh along. Now each comment landed like a punch. He told me one night, "I feel like a fraud. I used to believe all that stuff. Now it feels wrong." His conservative upbringing in a small Indiana town where church defined everything made acceptance feel impossible. He started running more, coming home sweaty and distant. The physical exhaustion did not quiet his mind. Instead, it made the moments when our eyes met in the hallway even more charged. I kept my distance, respecting his need to figure it out, but it hurt to watch him struggle. His parents' visit was only days away when the cracks widened. Chris received a call from his dad reminding him about finding a good Christian girl. The conversation left him pacing. He hung up and looked at me with desperation. "They expect me to propose to someone like Emily soon. How am I supposed to do that when I cannot stop thinking about you?" We argued then. I told him he did not have to choose right away, but he shot back that I did not understand the cost. "You get to live openly. My whole world falls apart if I do." The words stung because they were true. I felt guilty for the role I played, even though the kiss had been his choice. The moral dilemma weighed on both of us. Was it right to encourage his questions, or should I have pushed him back toward the straight life he knew? The night before his parents arrived, Chris could not sleep. He knocked on my door at 2 in the morning. We sat on the edge of my bed talking in whispers. "What if this is real?" he asked. "What if I have been lying to myself for years?" I told him only he could answer that, but I would be there no matter what. The vulnerability in his voice broke something in me. This was no longer just confusion. It was the start of something deeper, and the price was already showing in his haunted eyes. When his parents pulled up the next day, Chris put on the perfect son act. I played the polite roommate. His mom hugged him tight, talking about how proud they were. His dad clapped him on the back and asked about girls. Chris smiled through it all, but I saw the tremor in his hands. The weekend was a minefield. One wrong look or word could blow everything up. By Sunday evening, after his parents left, Chris was exhausted. He collapsed on the couch and for the first time let the tears come. "I cannot keep doing this," he whispered. "Hiding who I might be is killing me." I sat beside him, not touching but close enough to feel his pain. The summer night had forced him to face truths his family and society never prepared him for. The consequences were piling up. Lost sleep, strained friendships, a relationship with Emily that felt more like a performance. Chris was paying the price every single day, and I wondered how much more he could take before something broke. The family visit passed without disaster, but it left Chris raw. He avoided me for 2 days afterward, throwing himself into schoolwork. Then one evening he came home early and found me cooking dinner. The smell of pasta filled the apartment. He leaned against the counter watching me. "I told Emily we should take a break," he said quietly. She asked why, and I could not give her a real answer. The guilt in his voice was thick. I turned off the stove and faced him. "You do not have to explain yourself to me, Chris." But he shook his head. "I do, because you are the reason." That kiss opened a door I cannot close. We talked for hours that night. He described the confusion, the fear, and the strange sense of relief when he was honest with himself. I listened, feeling the pull between wanting to support him and fearing I was the catalyst for his pain. As August heat lingered, the confrontations grew. A mutual friend, Mike, noticed the shift in Chris. At a group hangout, Mike pulled me aside. "What is going on with you two? Chris looks at you different." I denied everything, but the seed was planted. Chris grew paranoid. He accused me of not being careful enough. The argument escalated in the living room. "You think this is easy for me?" he yelled. "My parents would cut me off. My friends would turn away. And you just sit there like it is no big deal." I fired back that I never asked him to kiss me. The words hung heavy. We both regretted them immediately. Later that night he apologized. I am scared, Ethan. Scared of what this means for my future. The moral questions kept us both awake. Was pursuing these feelings worth the destruction of his old life? Was denying them a betrayal of who he might truly be? The tension peaked when Emily showed up unannounced. She had sensed the distance and wanted answers. Chris froze when she asked if there was someone else. In a moment of panic, he denied it, but she saw through it. The look she gave me as she left said everything. Rumors started circulating in our social circle. People whispered. Chris became withdrawn, skipping classes and barely eating. One night he broke down completely. I cannot lose everything for this, he sobbed. But I think I am falling for you. The admission changed the air between us. It was no longer denial. It was acknowledgement, and the cost was becoming clear. His family called more often, pushing for updates on his dating life. Each call chipped away at him. I faced my own internal conflict. Part of me wanted to tell him to go back to the straight path to spare him the pain. Another part knew that suppressing who he was would destroy him slowly. The drama unfolded in small moments. A missed call from his sister. A text from Mike asking if the rumors were true. Chris and I navigated each one carefully, but the pressure built like a storm. The summer night that started it all now felt like a distant spark that had ignited a fire neither of us could control. Chris was changing, and the world around him was not ready to accept it. The betrayal came from Mike. He had seen us talking too closely one night and put the pieces together. Instead of asking us directly, he called Chris' parents. The phone rang during dinner. Chris answered on speaker by mistake. His dad's voice boomed through the apartment. What is this I hear about you and that roommate? Are you turning queer on us? Chris' face went white. He hung up quickly, but the damage was done. His parents demanded he come home immediately. The confrontation that followed over video call was brutal. His mom cried, asking what she did wrong. His dad threatened to cut off tuition. You were raised better than this, he shouted. Chris tried to explain, but words failed him. I sat out of frame, listening to every word, feeling the weight of responsibility. After the call, Chris was shattered. He paced the apartment, yelling at the walls. This is your fault, he accused me at first. If we had never kissed, none of this would have happened. Then he collapsed in tears. I am sorry. I know it is not your fault. The betrayal from Mike cut deep. A friend who was supposed to have his back had exposed him to the very people he feared most. Society prejudices that once felt distant now hit home. Neighbors gave strange looks. Classmates whispered. Chris lost sleep and weight. The psychological toll was visible in his hollow eyes. I faced my own reckoning. Guilt consumed me. Had I encouraged this awakening at the expense of his stability? We had long talks about right and wrong. Chris questioned everything. Is it selfish to chase what I feel with you when it hurts my family? Is it wrong to deny it and live a lie? The debates lasted late into the night. No easy answers emerged. Chris decided to drive home for a face-to-face talk. I waited anxiously in the empty apartment. When he returned 2 days later, his face was bruised from an argument with his dad. They gave me an ultimatum, he said quietly. Come home and go to counseling or lose everything. The trade-off was clear. Family or truth. The drama intensified when Emily heard the rumors and confronted us both. She felt used and betrayed. Her words stung Chris deeply. You made me think we had a future while you were figuring this out. The confrontation left him questioning his choices again. I supported him as best I could, but the damage spread. Friends distanced themselves. His sister sent a text saying she needed time. The societal backlash was relentless. In a city like Chicago, one would think acceptance was easier, but for someone from his background, the judgment felt universal. Chris stood at a crossroads. Each decision carried a heavy price. The summer night had forced him to awaken, but the cost was his old identity, his family support, and the life he thought he wanted. Chris chose to stay in Chicago. The decision cost him immediate family support. His parents stopped sending money. Calls became rare and cold. He picked up extra shifts to cover rent. The financial strain added to the emotional one. We argued about it. You should not have to suffer like this because of me, I told him. He shook his head. This is not because of you. It is because of who I am. The awakening brought clarity but also profound loss. He mourned the relationship with his parents. He mourned the easy acceptance he once had. Nights were filled with doubt. Is this love or just rebellion, he asked me once. The question cut deep because I wondered the same. Our bond deepened through the pain. We shared quiet moments cooking together or walking along the lake. The romance was slow and careful. A hand on the shoulder. A lingering look. No rush into anything physical. The focus stayed on the emotional journey. Chris confronted his faith. He read books. He talked to a counselor who specialized in these issues. The internal work was hard. He faced the moral conflict head-on. Was it wrong to love another man when his upbringing said otherwise? The process brought tears and breakthroughs. One evening he said, "I think God made me this way too." The statement marked a turning point. Betrayals continued. Mike tried to apologize, but Chris cut him off. The damage was done. Other friends chose sides. The isolation tested us. I sacrificed my own comfort, pushing aside dates to be there for him. The guilt never fully left me. I had been the spark. Now I watched him rebuild from the ashes. Chris made tough calls. He came out to his sister in a long letter. Her response was cautious but not rejecting. Small wins amid the losses. The drama peaked when his dad showed up unannounced. The confrontation in our living room was raw. His dad demanded he return home and forget this phase. Chris stood his ground. "This is not a phase, Dad. This is me." The words ended with the door slamming. His dad left without looking back. Through it all, Chris grew stronger. The psychological growth was visible. He smiled more. He spoke with conviction. The price had been high, but the freedom felt worth it. We faced the future together, knowing the road would not be easy. Family holidays would be painful. Society would still judge. Yet the connection that started that summer night had become something real and worth fighting for. Months passed and the dust settled into a new normal. Chris transferred to a part-time program to manage costs. He found a community group for men navigating similar awakenings. The support helped him process the trauma. Our relationship evolved slowly into something deeper. Shared meals turned into dates. Quiet evenings became moments of genuine connection. The drama did not vanish, but it lessened. We learned to navigate the stares and occasional comments. Chris paid the biggest price. Lost inheritance. Strained family ties. A future that looked nothing like the one planned since childhood. Carried my own burden. The knowledge that my presence had accelerated his journey sometimes kept me awake. We talked openly about it. The trade-offs were real, but so was the love. One crisp fall evening we returned to the rooftop where it began. The city lights glowed below. Chris took my hand. That summer night changed everything, he said. It hurt like hell, but I would not go back. I am finally myself. The statement brought tears to both of us. The awakening was complete. He had faced the prejudices, the family pressure, and the moral questions. He had made the controversial choice to live authentically. The consequences remained. Holidays alone. Awkward conversations with distant relatives. But the peace in his eyes was undeniable. We built a life together step by step. Small victories. A job he enjoyed. Friends who accepted us. The story was not perfect. Scars lingered. Yet the bond forged in fire proved stronger than the forces trying to break it. Chris often reflected on the journey. I thought I knew who I was until that night. Now I know the man I am supposed to be. The drama of those months taught us both about courage and cost. Love demanded sacrifice. Truth demanded bravery. In the end, we paid the price and found something worth it. Looking back at everything that unfolded after that one summer night, I still wonder about the bigger picture. Did one moment of vulnerability awaken a love that was always meant to be, or did it selfishly unravel the straight life my roommate was raised to live? Was it right or wrong? What do you think?